Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to another episode of The Pool of Ideas. As the name suggests, the discussion is about a number or a variety of different ideas, isms, schisms, ideologies. We really want to focus on a number of key elements and key ideologies that are affecting the world today, in particularly the Muslim world. So we've had a discussion on a number of ideologies, and today, inshallah ta'ala, we want to be having a look at secularism. Now, dear viewers, this program is unique in a number of different ways. First and foremost, we are looking at these ideologies in a very comprehensive manner. And secondly, we are bringing together these ideologies with Islam. What is the Islamic perspective on these ideologies, and what is the influence or effect of these ideologies on the Muslim world today? And I'm your host for the program, Junaid Jha. So let me begin by introducing our guest, and then we go straight into our questions. If I can begin by introducing Dr. Mahmoud Khalifa, who is an assistant professor in cultural studies. I'd like to begin by welcoming you by saying Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay. Doctor, we have the interesting subject of secularism with us today. Could I ask you to begin by giving us a brief introduction or intro into secularism?
Well, secularism is an ideology that separates state from church, okay? And actually secularism is the outcome of the humanist philosophy that dates back to the 16th century. There was this conflict between science and religion, which as a consequence of the church control of politics and economy, there was that clash with scientific truth and religious truth sanctioned by the church. Okay? So secularism has was the outcome of that strong conflict between religion and science, which, with the passage of time in European and Western societies, religion started to lose the battle against science. I mean, basically, I'm thinking of Christianity here.
Sure.
And it started to be put in a specific private space.
Okay.
So secularization or secularism aimed at limiting religion to the private space of the person and putting it away from the public space where you have politics, society, morality, and ideas. So religion through secularism was pushed back to the cloisters or the dark room of the personal world.
Okay, so does secularism aim to eliminate religion completely from society, or does it just limit its activities to private affairs?
The normal definition of secularism would have it that secularism, the general idea about secularism is that it wants to limit the world of religion to the private space. So you can believe whatever you like, but when you go to university, when you go to your office, you are a secular person. You keep your ideas about religion to yourself.
Okay.
Because religion, according to secularism, religion belongs to the world of the phantasmagoric, the fictional world that is not real, okay?
Sure.
Secularism is more a pragmatic ideology that doesn't deal or doesn't want to concern itself with the hereafter.
Okay.
It is interested in creating a modern state, a powerful modern state for its citizens, regardless of their religious ideas.
So is it interconnected with atheism?
Of course, secularism is secularization is a process. So secularisms are different in different places. Okay.
Sure.
So you have secularism. Basically, is step number one. It takes several steps for people to move from religious belief to atheism.
Okay.
But the outcome of complete secularism would be the denial of the existence of God.
Right, okay. And so here comes my question. Communism is very well known to say that religion is the opium of the people. So they work to eliminate religion from society. But secularism is not that harsh. Am I right to understand that?
Basically, yeah. Marx himself was an atheist. He didn't believe in God, and when he said opium, religion is the opium of the people, we shouldn't judge him harshly, because basically Christianity, the religion he knew, was a religion that tried to justify the status quo, where wanted to keep poor people like they are from revolting, keep them from revolting from going against the established regimes, and it promised them happiness in the hereafter.
Okay.
So by being world denying, Christianity has allowed or has enabled Marxist criticism of religion, because it was really the opium of the people.
Okay, and when you look at...
which is different from in the case of Islam. We'll talk about that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But when you look at secularism, it appears to be a very attractive, cohesive system, giving acceptance to all faiths. But is it a system of unity, or is it a divisive ideology?
It would... secularism is basically divisive when it is imposed from the outside on certain societies, like the way it happens here in Egypt and several Arab and Muslim countries.
Okay.
Secularism has never been introduced in the Arab and Islamic world through normal means. It was imposed through education. It was imposed through economic relationships, where the Arab and Muslim world were at a disadvantage. So modernization projects of the Arab and Islamic world were always associated with westernizing projects.
Okay.
Okay, and the secularized elites in the Arab and Islamic world were put on top of societies, and they were given the chance to try to socially engineer a secular society superimposed on a traditional context.
Okay.
So basically, societies were divided into traditional societies, a traditional stricken society,
Sure.
and a secular, elitist, pro-Western ruling government.
So, Doctor, you mentioned the word elitist. Am I fair to understand that there is a level of classism involved in secularism?
Yeah, in the Arab Islamic world, secularism is so much connected to a certain well-educated people who are educated in the West, in Western universities, people who belong to the higher classes, okay, who are privileged classes, okay, they have the access to Western education and so on.
Okay.
And who are prepared, who later on are put in positions of decision making.
Okay, so it's a political process of getting people to think in a particular way.
Yeah, it's a change of how society views the world, because secularism is, after all, an ideology that makes people look at the world in a certain specific way. It's an ideology that is God-denying.
Okay, and if we look at secularism in the Muslim world only for now, is it fair to say that in the Muslim world secularism equals westernization?
Yes, it is hard to see the difference between secularization and westernization, because secularism is basically the outcome of the Western experience in economy, in politics, in many fields, in education, in the aims and philosophy of education, in morality, and all that, in terms of the rights of man and so on. So basically, when you modernize, you tend to copy the example of the West, and as such, lose your basic identity. So basically, we should modernize, but according to our principles, not westernize.
Sure. Doctor, there may appear to be like an apparent contradiction when we look at the definition that you gave for secularism, meaning that it puts Islam or religion to the side. But now when we look at Islam through its history, can we find any precedents or any evidence of secularism being part of our tradition or our culture?
It would be anachronistic to use the word secularism to characterize any period or part of Muslim history, because basically secularism comes as a structural part of how Christianity worked.
Okay.
From the beginning, Christianity divided the world into priesthood and laity.
Right.
People of religious authority and laity. What you can call a theocratic system.
Okay.
But in where the Pope, for example, in Rome would depose kings and approve certain political decisions, declare wars. So the church was in charge of the religious world and the secular world.
Okay.
In Islam, no one is given the authority to talk about religion and about the not secular things. Okay? Everybody, there is no priesthood in Islam. So there is no theocratic rules. For example, we have Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar can just tell us things about politics and economy and so on, but it doesn't rule.
It doesn't have
religion.
enforcement.
We don't have a religious elite that has political power.
Okay.
Okay, it can give. So we don't have, from the start, Islam didn't have this division between the secular and non-secular.
So am I fair to say, Doctor, then, that the troubles, the tragedies that the Western world went through with religion and development, we've never experienced that. And as a matter of fact, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we actually did the opposite. If you look at the time of Muslims in Spain and Andalus, they actually developed with religion. They didn't go backwards.
Yeah, because Islam was tolerant of difference. It had a multicultural attitude. So if you go back to your example, the example you have just mentioned, Andalusia or modern Islamic Spain was a place of multiculturalism.
Okay.
Even the Jews of the modern times believe that it was their golden age in Spain under Muslim rulers.
Sure.
So there was a humanistic tradition that allowed everybody to think freely and contribute to the glory of Muslim Spain.
Okay.
So basically, Islam did not have this restrictive religious rule that would make religion clash with science, for example.
Okay.
If you look at the origins of Islam, when Islam came to Arabia, Arabia was a desolate, barbaric place. Not even on the map of civilized societies.
Okay.
No one really thought of the Arabian Peninsula as a civilized place.
Okay.
But Islam has created Medina, a new society that was, you can say, secular, because it was not based on religion.
Sure.
Because you have this pact of Medina that allowed non-Muslim tribes, Jews and so on, to be integrated in one whole idea of citizenship.
Sure.
Where they can defend the country against external enemies. They have the full rights of Muslims. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ has established this multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society that did not need the modern day secularism.
Okay, so very interesting, Doctor, how the history of Islam shows prosperity right from the very beginning without us having to differentiate between state and law. Okay, Doctor, we're going to take a very short break here. Then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion talking about secularism. Dear viewers, let's move over and have a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion, and we'll look at some of the realities on the ground about how secularism is involved in the Muslim world, and we'll also have a look at some of the countries that have secularism as their state policy, but also are growing and prosperous, some may say. So we will see you in just a few moments.
Open your